Hey, 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 awesome people. Welcome. Mr. C here. We are continuing our whole number multiplication unit. We've already gone through some 4th grade and 5th grade standards. Today, we are focusing on the 3rd grade multiplication standards. This video is going to be part 1. It's going to be the intro into multiplication. So going to kind of talk about what you already know and kind of show you how that's going to build. So here is the 3rd grade standards, Common Core. I've had Missouri Learning Standards up here this entire unit. Notice on this, the big thing is we are multiplying 1-digit whole numbers by multiples of 10. And it gives us an example down here, 9 times 80, 5 times 60. Before we get to that, though, we're going to work on a few other things for our intro. If you haven't yet, make sure you click the subscribe so you know when a new video drops. Join us in this math learning journey. My goal is to help make math understandable and challenging. So make sure you join us in this journey. We love seeing more and more people with us here. So, like I said earlier, I have already dropped the 4th grade standards video and the 5th grade standards. You can check those out below in the descriptions. Click on those, watch those videos if you want to see where you're going next in your learning. You want a little refresher or a challenge, anything like that, check those videos out. So, with that being said, let's jump into our intro into multiplication problems. All right, first problem I have here for us is going to be kind of a picture problem. I want to kind of help you understand what we're doing and be able to see it visually. All right, so as you can see, I drew a nice little picture here. You know, there's a nice little stick man. And this stick man, let's say this is Tom. All right, so we've got our boy Tom here, and every day this week, Monday through Friday, Tom gets let's see if my pen's working, there we go. He gets 2 apples every day. All right, Tom gets 2 apples every day. And so as you can see, I drew some red apples up here at the top. And what Tom wants to know is how many apples does he have total? All right, what is his total number of apples? And if you look at this, a lot of you are probably already doing a couple things in your head. All right, the first thing you're probably doing is you may be counting them individually, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Some of you may be skip counting by numbers. If you're skip counting, that's a good strategy too. All right, so let's kind of think about what you already know up to this point. Okay, what you've learned in kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade, and let's look at it and what that means for us in 3rd grade, because eventually we're going to get to the multiplication. But before we do that, there's something about addition that's really important to understand. And you've learned this already, but multiplication is the same thing as repeated addition. Okay, so see what I'm talking about here. How many apples do we have in this group here? How many apples? There are 2 apples in this group. How many apples are in this group? 2. What about this group? Yep, 2. And you're probably screaming them out already. How many are in these 2 groups? And you're probably thinking 2. If so, you're absolutely correct. Notice, okay, how many groups are there? How many groups are there in this problem? Let's look. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 groups. And inside of those groups, how many does each group have? How many's inside this group? 2. How many's inside this group? 2. 2. 2. 2. Notice every group has an equal amount. Every group has an equal amount. Multiplication is going to be repeated addition. All right, and the way that works is if you look at this picture here, we've got 5 groups, and each group has 2 apples inside of it. All right, let's add this up. All right, let's add this up because technically this is what you were doing in your head most likely. You were probably looking at this and going, all right, Mr. C, I see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I see 10 apples. And you are absolutely correct. Now let me show you what the multiplication side of things is going to be. Okay? For multiplication, we're going to have two numbers that we are going to multiply here. All right, and when we multiply those two numbers, we're going to get an answer of 10. Okay, we're going to get an answer of 10. Let's take a look at our picture here and see if this can help us any. How many groups did y'all say there were before? How many groups were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 5 groups. I'm going to write that underneath here. 5 groups. Okay, there were 5 groups. Now, think about this next question. How many apples were in each group? How many apples were in each group? Well, let's look. There were 2 in this group. 2, 2, 2, 2. So there's 2 in each group. There were 5 groups. And there were 2. So I'm going to put underneath there the number. That's a terrible little symbol there. Let me go. The number in each group. All right. So if you look at this, there were 5 groups and there's 2 in each group. Well, 5 times 2 is 10. Here's something really cool about multiplication. Here's something really cool about it. So I'm going to move over a little bit. We can also write this, change my color here. We can also write this the other way. The cool thing about multiplication, and we'll talk about this later on, is that with multiplication, you can flip-flop the numbers and it's still going to get you the same answer. If you have 2 times 5, you are still going to get the answer of 10. And that's something we're going to talk about later on, but I want to kind of show you right here. Either way you multiply 5 times 2 or 2 times 5, you're going to get the same answer of 10. And so what I want you to see by this problem is that you already know how to add. You already know how to draw pictures and how to draw groups and how to count the total number. Well, the cool thing about multiplication is that we're just building on what you've already learned. We're going to show you a more efficient way to be able to add equal numbers of groups. Okay, that's what we're showing you here. So pause this, rewatch this section. I've got a couple more of examples for us so we can kind of work through it. So take a look, pause it for a second, ask yourself some questions. What are you confused at? What doesn't make sense? Remember, growth mindset means that you're okay with the struggle. Stick with us. Let's try our next example. All right, here we go with a second problem or a second example. What I've set up here is I have drawn an array. And this is something that you've done in second grade and even in first grade, actually. And so what I've done is I've drawn an array here. And the first thing I want us to do is just to set up the repeated addition problem. Okay, let's set up this repeated addition problem. So first things first, let's see how many we have in each of our columns. And remember, columns go up and down. Okay, columns go up and down. So how many are in this column? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. All right, so we have 3 in each column. Now, if you add those up, what are you getting for y'all's answer? Some of you may be using your hands, which is a great strategy. Some of you may just be writing it down and trying it out. Hopefully, you're getting to the point to where you can skip count by 3s. So watch this. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12. You can look at the picture and do that too. 3, 6, 9, 12. So when we add 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, we get the answer of 12. Now you're probably thinking to yourself already, Mr. C, there's got to be another way to solve this. There's got to be a different way to look at this. And you're exactly correct. Okay, that's the cool thing about math, is there's so many different ways to see it. So let's talk about multiplication here. Let's talk about multiplication. I'm going to change to this green color. In multiplication, we're going to have two numbers that we're going to multiply together to get the answer of 12, because we have 12 dots in our array. Okay? So what I want you to do is look at how many groups there are. Okay, how many groups there are. And let's do that from columns. Okay, let's say that this is a group, this is a group, this is a group, and this is a group. All right, so we've got some groups here. Let's count how many groups we have. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 4 groups. All right, we've got 4 groups. Now, how many is in each group? Okay, there are 4 groups. Now I want you to count how many is in each group. Let's look. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. How many are in each group? There are 3 in each group. There are 4 groups. So this is how many groups. I'll write that in here. Groups. And then this here is the number in each group. There we go. So 4 times 3 is going to give us 12. Notice, we added 3 4 times. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. We added 3 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. That's where we got 4 times 3, and that gives us 12. All right, let me show you another example problem. Pause the video if you need to, and then join me for this next one. All right, new problem for us here. I put some fancy looking stars up here in our array this time. So I've got another array. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to try to figure out what the multiplication problem would be for this. But before we do that, let's look at what the repeated addition would be. Okay, let's look at what the repeated addition would be. So this time, let's look at it like this. Actually, I'm going to change color so it's easier to see. Let's go with groups that are this direction. Well, let's look at them in rows. Okay, so let's look at it in rows. So when we look at it in rows, let's see if we can figure out what our repeated addition would be. Looks like we're going to have 2 different things that we're adding together to get our answer. So let's look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this row. Remember, rows go side to side. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this row. So we've got 6 plus 6. Give you a second. What is 6 plus 6? I'm getting the answer of 12. All right, now let's talk multiplication. All right, so we did 6 plus 6, and that gave us 12. Now we're going to do some multiplication. So let's think about it just like we were on these last 2 examples. We're trying to get an answer of 12. Now, how many groups do we have? All right, I want you to look at these stars and see how many groups that we have. All right, look at how many groups we have. I see 1 group here and a second group here. Here's my first group, 1. Here's my second group, 2. That's 2 groups. So that's where I'm going to get the 2 from. Now ask yourself, how many is in each group? How many do you see in each of the groups? Well, let's look and see. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 in this group, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, how many stars are in each group? 6. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think 2 times 6 equals? 12. Ding, ding, ding. Notice 6 plus 6 gives us 12. 2 times 6 gives us 12. This is just taking what you know about repeated addition, and we're just applying that into multiplication. We're moving from the addition side of things and getting you to where you now can start doing a little bit of multiplication. This is just getting our feet wet with these problems. If you need to, watch these again, watch it over again. A couple of websites that I highly recommend, I will write over here on the side. There's a couple websites that I highly recommend using to kind of get you more and more practice with multiplication. The first one is called Reflex Math. Check that one out. It has a great program for multiplication. And a second one that I would like to point out to you is a great website called Zearn. Okay, both of those are great websites to use when you're using multiplication. Make sure to check those out. I'll have some more multiplication 3rd grade videos coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. Make sure you click the subscribe button. Thanks for joining us today. Mr. C out.